troublemaker. I've been a late night player. I've been broke as a joke. I've been a money maker. I've been a record breaker. Taking credit as an educator. I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky, shaky thing. Popping, locking, stopping, let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip hop, it's like it stings. We make a whole room drop and everybody sing. We want the funk. We gotta have that funk. We kick it old school. We think we're so cool. We take it back to the past. We gonna act a fool. Up jumps the middle finger.
Sports Buzz, the Fanatical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here in studio
A little early.
on our scheduled day to air, Thursday, February 6th. We are in this afternoon taping, doing a tape show, so we are not actually live, but we are current.
Yes.
So it's almost being live. We're about 5 hours early.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're just a hair off.
whatever. So we're here, obviously, Thursdays until 6 to 6:30. Show re-airs Fridays 1 to 1:30, and of course Dave Kenton throws it on the air random time, so you never know.
It could be on any time.
Channel 23, downtown Danbury, Connecticut. Flip the dial, see if I'm on. You might see the show and hear what we've been talking about. And of course, you can hear my man Bob Broad Jr. right there. Bobby, how you doing?
I'm good. I had a long snooze through that Super Bowl.
You got caught up on your rest this weekend, like a lot of people who were ready to tune out at halftime.
I was ready to tune out after the first play.
Opening play of the game, safety.
Yeah, that.
It looked like Peyton Manning was ready to tune out right away too.
I told my girlfriend's father, I said, "Oh, that's it, game's over. Go.
Game over.
Turn on something else."
Was that kind of game for sure. Of course, Bob's show, Spotlight on Tuesday nights at 9, Wednesdays re-airs at noon. Bob likes to cover local events, and he does like to cover those Danbury Whalers.
Yeah, who are having a bit of a sticky wicket right now.
Yeah, it's gone public too. It's been in the news a lot lately.
Yes.
And things aren't real pretty with what's going on with their financial battles with the town and everything else. So, besides that, how are they holding up and how's the team holding up? I saw the coach, speaking of problems, his court date was pushed back. What, he didn't get himself a lawyer?
No.
I never really heard of that being allowed.
I never did either, but...
So that got pushed back probably until after the season concludes, right? Which is good for the team. But anyways, they got a lot of problems.
Yeah, Monday night they had the ad hoc committee meeting at the council meeting, and it didn't come over too good from what I saw on paper.
Yeah, so they're going to see what they can do and try to get this thing resolved.
Because they have to pay every 5 games before each game for the police and fire.
Right, they have a backlog of payments, so now they need to pay in advance, or else I don't know. What does that mean? The game won't. They won't be able to play. Is that what would happen?
They have to finish out the season. So I don't know about if there will be a season next year.
Well, it's a tough situation over there. We know the fans still supporting them, and they're still interested. And what's the events this weekend? They got a snow makeup?
Saturday night is Saturday and Sunday are playing Dayton. Sunday's actually a makeup game from one that was snowed out a couple weeks ago. And it's the Diamond Dig on Saturday, which my lovely girlfriend is going to participate in.
She's going for the diamond, huh?
Yes. It's a diamond pendant, actually.
Diamonds are a girl's best friend, Bob.
Yes.
So not surprised to hear she's signed up for that. What, it's in the ice?
It's a different thing. It's
hidden somewhere in the arena? Yeah. Interesting. So any ladies out there looking for a diamond, hey, Valentine's Day's coming up. Yeah. Maybe you're worried you're not going to get the diamond you're looking for. Go over to the ice arena. Yeah. Get that diamond. Go search.
And then Sunday is Firefighters Night.
Oh, Firefighters Night. Makeup from the snowed out.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of snow, lots of weather. How about this, Bob? Let's speaking of the weather and speaking of the Super Bowl, how lucky is Roger Goodell in the NFL?
Oh, he is.
I mean, we had sub-zero temperatures for the past 3-4 weeks, basically.
And
0 degrees, below zero.
It's like 50 degrees.
48 degrees, I think it was at kickoff.
Yeah.
And, within hours after that game's over, it's snowing again.
Yeah.
I mean, they found like this 12-hour window of opportunity where the temperature soared and they got to play the game. Everybody was comfortable. They got in and out. Everybody was comfortable except for Peyton Manning. Seasick, the Denver Post puts it out there. Rout of the Broncos.
Well, the problem was right after he had the safety, everything just seemed like it fell apart.
They were unprepared, Bob. Not ready. Seattle, champs.
Seattle literally mopped them up.
They sure did. And big win for Seattle, obviously. Seahawks' first Super Bowl victory and first championship for the city of Seattle since 1979. The Seattle Supersonics, who are now, unfortunately for them, the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
Here's my trivia. I've mentioned this on the show before. Let's see if you remember.
Okay.
You obviously have a pretty big hint now since we're talking about it.
Yeah.
But the NBA's Western Conference, Bob, which we know all the time gets rated as the better conference between the East and the West, typically, not almost always, especially in the last 10, 12 years. So who was the last NBA champion to come out of the Western Conference that wasn't the LA Lakers and that did not reside in the state of Texas?
So it was the Sonics.
The Seattle Supersonics, 1979.
That's a long time ago.
Portland Trailblazers right before them in 78. A long drought of other teams. Of course, you know, the Rockets got theirs when Jordan took his little break in the mid-90s. The Spurs have been a great team, of course. Dallas Mavericks showed up and they got theirs, beating out the Heat a few years ago, finally. So all three of those teams coming out of the state of Texas. Everybody else in the Western Conference can't get that championship from the NBA.
Well, look at our Eastern Conference right now.
Oh,
I mean, we got one team that's over 500.
Well, not more than one. We play our under-over game, Bob, which we set the number at 3. We're a little ahead of the game. We're supposed to be talking about NBA later in the show.
But I meant, you know.
But the number is it's over.
Yeah.
They're looking at getting we're almost at 6. If we check last night's results, we might be at 6.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's talk about the Super Bowl. About 43-8, opening play, safety.
Yeah.
I mean,
what was it, 11? Not even 11 seconds.
12 seconds into the game, Manning steps up. I mean, why he's in a shotgun right there from 1st and 10 at their own 15,
idea.
I don't know. Thought it was questionable, and then he
misses
steps up. And you know what the other interesting thing about this, Bob? And the crowd was loud, but we've heard loud crowds before. But all the talk of the Omaha.
Yeah.
Did you hear any of his what he was saying at the line through the broadcast?
No.
Did they pull those sideline microphones?
Because I didn't hear anything he was saying.
All game long, you never heard anything he said.
No chatter, no nothing.
So you couldn't hear that. You couldn't hear what he was saying. And then he goes ahead and he steps up, and the ball goes right over his head. As he's stepping up in the center, goes ahead and snaps the ball, goes into the end zone for a safety. And and then they get a field goal out of that.
Yeah, so that's 5-0.
And then, right away they get him 3 and out. And then here it is. He gets hit on this play, and he throws that duck for an interception. So they only were up 8-0 with a couple turnovers and the stop and the free kick. And you were wondering, were they not taking enough advantage of the situation? But they got another scoring opportunity, and that's when they got the touchdown, made it 15-0, and you started to get the feeling that Denver was not going to be
ready
making any real effort to make a dramatic comeback in this game.
So in other words, as bad as Eli has been with my Giants.
How many interceptions thrown at MetLife Stadium between the two Manning brothers against Seattle this year? Because Seattle did come to town early in the season.
So I think, didn't the Giants throw 3?
The number is 7 interceptions, Bob. So the Giants, I think, had 4, actually. Yeah. And then, factor in some fumbles in this Broncos game, too. They had turnovers going all over the place, kick return. But what about right before halftime, Bob? It was clear the Broncos were pushing the panic button.
Oh, yeah.
4th and 2, you're down 22-0. Obviously, you're feeling like, we need a touchdown.
Yeah.
But at that point, in field goal range, with about a minute left in the half, you have to be thinking, get the goose egg off the board.
But
we need some points going into halftime.
Just let the clock run out.
Well, they go for it on 4th and 2 instead of taking the points and getting the goose egg off the board and trying to get at least some positive
Yeah, at least
momentum.
put a 3 up there would have been.
And Manning throws the ball into the dirt.
Yeah.
So it was obvious, and this is the thing, Bob. Seattle's defense, Manning is not a mobile quarterback at all. You had to have the idea, which was amazing because everybody was picking Denver leading into this game. Everybody on TV, all the experts, Denver, Denver, Denver. Seattle's defense, you knew was going to put pressure on him, and you knew they were going to play the receivers physical. They have big, strong, physical defenders in the secondary who can match up with good receivers. So you knew there was going to be no yards after the catch, which there weren't.
Right.
They tried some screen passes, and they would tackle them at the point of reception. They wouldn't let them get, behind them for anything deep because they have good coverage, they got good help, and they have ability to play man-to-man, one-on-one. So they can bring pressure, they can cover. Why was everybody picking Denver? Why was everybody getting sucked into it's Manning's year? It's Manning's year. How many times have we heard it's Manning's year, Bob?
Because there was a Manning in the Giants Stadium. That's what they were talking.
Eli went to Lucas Oil and he got the victory. Yeah. Peyton's going to come to MetLife and he's going to get the victory.
Yeah.
How many times has Peyton Manning had great regular seasons, Bob, and not one?
Yeah.
Every year but once.
Yeah.
And his career is lasting a pretty long time, at least 15 years. How many years has it been now? Yeah. He's got an 11-12 record in the postseason. 12 losses, most ever by a QB in the postseason. That's not a good number. And, all his stats, Bob, I thought it was only fitting. In this Super Bowl, he puts up another hollow stat record. He sets the record for most completions in a game. How is that even possible? That just shows you all of the stats are just nonsense.
And then the worst thing is, they go for a field. Okay, once they do get the touchdown. What does he do? Go for 2 points.
Yeah,
that's going to do a lot.
Yeah, at that point I was really rooting for the shutout, and they only got that touchdown. If you remember, if you think back, at that point people really probably weren't paying attention that closely. But if you go back and look, they drilled Manning on a 3rd down, and he threw the ball out towards the sideline that never would have been caught.
Right.
It was a penalty, but they had to call it. The defender did not have to interfere. It wasn't a egregious thing he did, but he did make contact. He didn't even have to cover the guy because the ball was never going to be caught because Manning was hit on the play. That was on a 3rd down. That would have forced a punt right there. So that drive was extended by that play. And then also around the 40-yard line, 3rd and 4, they had a defender too excited, jumped offside to give them a first down. So they had 2 first downs on that one scoring drive that were on 3rd down plays. That drive could have ended, so they could have got that shutout. So they did not get the shutout, which I was certainly looking for at that point. It's a blowout. It's a rout. Let's see something really crazy.
Well, you know what the
really
worst part was?
What's that?
You had Broadway Joe coming out in mink.
Mink
and they didn't get ready to call the thing, and he already throws the thing up in the air.
I thought that was the ref's fault myself. He's been the one coming under fire saying he messed it up, he threw it. Did you hear what he said to the Seattle guys on the field? He threw the coin in the air, and the ref steps in and grabs it and says, wait. And he says to Seattle, I got a quick trigger. Which he did.
Yeah.
Another good joke was there was another interception by Broadway Joe Neiman because the ref had to step in and catch it. So I don't know. I thought the ref was the one who messed that up by letting him step out there, and he didn't tell him to wait originally. He gave him the coin toss and said, "Go."
But I mean, you're coming out in a mink coat of all things. It's not
Broadway
40
Joe.
Years ago when he was.
That's Broadway Joe.
Yeah.
So the other big thing in this game, I thought, was the 3rd down conversions.
Yeah.
Everybody says Russell Wilson just game manager. He didn't do much in this game. He didn't have huge stats. he was crucial, Bob, because,
Oh, yeah.
early in that first half, before it gets out of hand, and it's easy now to look back and say, oh, it was over right away. You could just tell. But it really wasn't. At 5-0, 8-0, Denver could have got back in that game easily.
But once it got past,
even at 15-0.
But once it got past like 22, it was
right at 22, and then the opening kickoff of the second half,
which
Denver tries a pooch kick. What the heck was that?
I don't know. That was
and
something.
They don't cover it, and Percy Harvin breaks it for a touchdown. That was obviously the final dagger if it wasn't already. But in that first half, they extended their drives, which helped keep Denver off the field, helped keep their defense fresh, by getting third down conversions. And he converted a lot of tough ones on the run, scrambling, throwing out onto the sideline passes. He made some very big plays with his arm. I think he's a very good quarterback. And, we saw the effect that Harvin could have on a game. So you got to look ahead, Bob. Seattle has this advantage. Unlike San Francisco, who was not struck when the iron was hot. They lost the NFC Championship game when they thought they were going to your Giants in that brutal loss by them. They recovered from that. It went to the Super Bowl but blew that game, couldn't win it there. So now they're a third season where they lose. They're 4 years now into being good and being one of the top teams. And in the NFL, it's tough to stay that good for long because players leave. They get older, for one. For two, they get contracts, which dictates that they can't pay everybody, so they got to leave. Seattle has got this Super Bowl done in year 2 of this real big turnaround. So most of their guys are still young and still under rookie contracts. They're not going to have to shell out money right away. They're going to be able to keep some of these guys and be able to maintain this. They are going to be very tough next year, maybe the year after as well. And they've got this great defense. They've got the running back who can pound out the physical yards. They've got weapons. Doug Baldwin, big-time player. I think he makes big plays. Wilson is a smart quarterback with ability. And, Harvin's going to be able to play a full season. He played one game all year this year. So, they're going to be tough. How about the halftime show? What, did you check out Bruno Mars?
Well, that was the best thing out of the whole game.
There was a lot of concern that people weren't going to know Bruno. They didn't know if he was just going to sing that one song that they promoted to death every 10 seconds.
But it was really a good show.
But he was outstanding. I thought, put on a great performance. He's got that nice big band, full sound, funky. They get down to it. They pay homage to like old soulful hits. They have a real good time, put on a great show. Then the Red Hot Chili Peppers show up and the whole thing goes nuts. So it was a good combination, actually. I thought they played well together with the Chili Peppers when they came out. And he used that line, Give It Away, in his song to cue it up, which I thought was pretty good. If anybody picked up on that, he stole a line from the Chili Peppers in his song before it got to it. So that was good. Great halftime show. The national anthem by the opera singer was outstanding. The commercials I thought were mostly lame.
Well, the Budweiser one is always good.
Budweiser one's always good with the Clydesdales. We know that. There was all serious commercials. And how many cars? It's like all car commercials at this point.
What did you think of Tim Tebow? He couldn't do it.
Tim Tebow was he was one of the better ones, I thought. Actually,
well, he comes out. He says, "Well, I can't." He says, "I might as well go into acting since I ain't playing football no more."
I thought he did good actually. So, to tell you the truth, the Dylan commercial was interesting. The good question I would like to find out is if he wrote the content in that. It seemed like it was possible he could have had a hand in the writing. So maybe. The Dober Wawa. Dave King liked the Dober Wawa. All right. So we have some opinions on the commercials. I would have liked to see more funny commercials. They saved most of those till the end.
Our director in there says he liked the thing that they were trying to sell things.
They were trying to sell things. That's a commercial for you. All right. So before we wrap this up, let's talk about the Denver Broncos and the history of the Super Bowl and blowouts. 43-8. A lot of people say this was the worst Super Bowl ever.
But actually, it wasn't.
Well, when you consider they were the number one offense, to be held to 8 points, that is poor. But let's go back. 55-10, Bob.
That was against
San Francisco 49ers, 42-10. Washington Redskins, Doug Williams. That was the famous game right there. And I think that Denver was up 10-0 in that game, as a matter of fact. And I remember watching that game with Fatty Roots, as a matter of fact. From Washington area, his dad and his brother, we know Fatty Roots is a Kansas City fan, but his dad and brother, huge Washington Redskins fans, and they had a Super Bowl party. I was early 20s at that point. We went over there and watched that game, and they were having a good time. 42-10, Skins, and also your G-Men with the 39-20 beatdown. Was that the Phil Simms almost perfect game?
I believe it was.
Record setter?
That was back, 1980, 80, or 81?
Well, wasn't 80? Well, maybe that was the Hostetler game.
86 would have been.
No, it must have been the Hostetler game.
Yeah.
All right. So it was not the Phil Simms one. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I don't know. We got Pete Carroll joins Jimmy Johnson.
Right.
And much like Jimmy Johnson, you got to give Pete Carroll credit for building it. He came into Seattle. The team was no good. And he has been building this team and doing well. And he joins him and Barry Switzer, who walked into success.
Right.
Jimmy Johnson built the Cowboys when he came in, and they were bad, as the only coaches to win college football's national championship and the NFL Super Bowl national championship. So that was the Super Bowl. That's the football season.
It's over.
It's over. Let's turn the page, and I'm going to go straight to college basketball first, Bob, before we get to some NBA. We're probably going to be running out of time, so we're going to be quick. Huge game tonight, 7 o'clock on ESPN. UConn versus Cincinnati. Cincinnati, 21-2, ranked 7th in the country, 10-0, first place in the AAC, undefeated, and they had a great win. I did watch against Louisville the other night in Louisville. Excellent victory for Cincinnati in that game. So this is going to be a real tough test for UConn tonight against Cincinnati. UConn's on a bit of a streak themselves right now, and they are, doing pretty good. They're 17-4 overall. They've moved back into the top 25, ranked 22. They're still behind Louisville and Memphis in those standings at 5-3. Huskies have won 6 of 7 games, Bob. How about that blowout, Bob? 80-43 against Houston. Unbelievable payback for that loss on New Year's Eve. Great quote from Kevin Ollie. They ruined our New Year's Eve. We just ruined their Chinese New Year because it happened on Chinese New Year.
Right.
80-43. So they are on a run. This is going to be a big game. I would tune into that tonight if you're a UConn fan, 7 o'clock. And they've got a lot of balance going on right now. Big contributions. We know DeAndre Daniels, Omar Calhoun, but these other guys, Breema, the big kid, and Chroma, that transfer from George Washington, who's actually graduated but had eligibility left. He is playing well. Nolan, huge game against Houston the other night. That's big if they get contributions out of him. Gafai and Olander doing well. We know Boatwright and Shabazz. So that's what's going on in the AAC. I do have to mention this. Syracuse hosting Duke. Great game, overtime. Syracuse holds on to win. I take great offense to the hype of this game. And, Jim Boeheim, who overall I would say I have liked. I would have preferred it if he retired before they moved to the ACC and went turncourt, but he did not. I can't really fault him. It is his team. He doesn't have to be forced out, even though I know deep in his heart he felt it was lame that Syracuse was falling prey to the realignment that was caused by football. But does he have to become a super shill for the ACC and put all his years of the Big East behind him like it was absolutely nothing?
Right.
To come in and say this is the most hyped game in the history of the Carrier Dome, in the history of Syracuse, and to say it was then afterwards the greatest game ever played in this arena.
Right.
Are you kidding me? It's a regular season game against Duke, who's not even any good this year, despite the fact that somehow they lost to Syracuse and they moved up in the rankings, Bob.
That doesn't make no sense.
How did they move back up to 11 after losing this game? So Jim Boeheim, I am just really disappointed and agitated by the fact that he would go as far as saying that. How many great games have been played? And the reason why these other games, without even trying to list them, just by the fact that they were long-standing rivals, Bob.
Okay.
There's no way that this game in the first season of a rivalry could be bigger than any games he had against long-standing rivals, against teams that were in the top 10, going on to win championships, Big East battles up and down the line. Crazy that he would become that big a shill. Really disgusted by that whole thing. And I have to give my hats off to one of my favorite writers of all time. I did hear him on a podcast this week. Bob Ryan said exactly the same thing I was thinking. The only person I heard with common sense to point that out. Bobby with his phone on. Love it. Arizona's number 2, Florida's number 3, Wichita State number 4, San Diego State from my Colorado State Mountain West Conference number 5, Bob.
Right.
Big Ten's been beating themselves up, so they've all fallen out. All right, NBA action, your Knicks again, Bob, winning streak, losing streak. This is how they do it. They are 19-30 now with the loss last night to Portland. After winning 5 in a row, they lost 5 in a row. They followed that with a 4-game winning streak. Now they lost 3 in a row. Brooklyn was on a pretty hot stretch. They've lost a couple games before winning the other night.
They
did have their
Celtics,
return
right?
to Boston, which they won. They pulled that game out. They're 21-25. That was pretty good. Memo to ESPN: if you're going to cover the game, cover it and show the tributes. I think we may have already talked about that.
Right.
But anyways, Brooklyn is currently 8th in the standings right now. Charlotte, with Kemba Walker coming back from injury, they're ahead of Brooklyn. Chicago is 6th. Washington is above 500, Bob. That means we have 5 teams in our under-over game above 500 in the Eastern Conference. Oklahoma City's been on a big tear out west. Did want to mention that. NHL is going to break because of the Olympics.
Right.
Bruins are 5 points behind the Penguins. How much time do we got? Are we almost out? Or
1 minute.
All right, so we still have a minute or so. Penguins are still the first place seed. Your Rangers took care of business in those Yankee Stadium games.
Those were great games. 58,000 fans.
Yeah, that was pretty good. And they beat up the Devils and they beat up the Islanders. Actually, that was a close game, 2-1.
Yeah.
They beat up the Devils. And, of course, we did see good action out west. How on earth can you play a hockey game outdoor in L.A. at Dodger Stadium?
Weather. I don't know. You got to pull the Jets up on.
They did it. So we'll be back next week. We'll be talking about the Olympics when we get back. We'll dive in full on to NBA. The NHL will be on break. We'll get into college basketball big time.
More stuff on the Whalers, hopefully.
Hopefully good stuff. We'll see. We'll see about that. And that'll be it. So thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week, live, I believe.